The year is 2157. Humanity has colonized distant planets, merged with advanced AI, and mastered genetic modification, yet the mysteries of the heart remain unchanged. In this universe of vast technologies, where logic and reason govern most aspects of life, a young scientist named Dr. Ilara Quinn found herself skeptical of one deeply human belief: soulmates. In a world where algorithms calculated compatibility and data dictated relationships, the notion of a soulmate seemed nothing more than an outdated fantasy. Ilara's life had always been about control. She believed that emotions were variables to be measured, understood, and ultimately eliminated. But everything changed the day she met him. Story. Ilara Quinn stood at the edge of the observation deck aboard the starship Vanguard, looking out into the endless stretch of stars. She had spent the better part of her life in research, decoding alien languages, studying biotechnologies, and exploring the deep recesses of the universe, but there was one thing that she could never quite grasp: the idea of soulmates. The idea of two people being destined for each other seemed absurd to her. People were products of genetics, environment, and choice. The thought that there was a single person out there whose soul was perfectly aligned with hers. Ridiculous. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice that sent an odd chill up her spine. "Dr. Quinn, your presence is requested in the laboratory." It was Captain Kieran Firth, a man with whom she'd shared little more than professional pleasantries. "I'm in the middle of something important," Ilara responded, her voice dismissive, not even bothering to turn around. "This is more important. Trust me." Annoyed but intrigued, Ilara walked briskly to the lab, where Kieran was waiting. "What's so urgent?" she asked, her impatience growing. "We found something," he said, pointing to a small, glowing pod on the examination table. "Something human." Ilara frowned. "Human? We're light years away from Earth, Kieran." "I know, but look at this." Kieran activated a holodisplay, showing the pod's intricate design, clearly not of human or alien origin, but yet disturbingly familiar. It pulsed with a faint blue light, emitting a low hum that made Ilara's heart beat a little faster than normal. "What is it?" she asked. "A person," Kieran said solemnly. "Or at least, that's what the scans are showing." Ilara approached the pod, her hands hovering over it. As she touched the surface, her body went rigid. A sudden jolt of energy shot through her fingers, straight into her chest, igniting something deep within her that she couldn't explain. "Ilara?" Kieran's voice broke through her reverie, but she couldn't speak. All she could do was stare at the pod as it began to open slowly, releasing a soft mist. Inside was a man young, with striking features and an otherworldly glow to his skin. His eyes, even closed, seemed to pulse with an inner light. She'd never seen anything like him. The moment his skin made contact with the air, his eyes shot open. A burst of color flooded the room, and everything seemed to slow down. He was looking right at her. And for a moment, just a moment, everything in her universe felt as though it clicked into place. Kieran stepped back, taken aback by the strange energy surrounding the man. "He's not supposed to be alive." "I don't know what he is," Ilara whispered. But in that instant, the truth felt undeniable. It was as if her very essence had recognized something in his. She wasn't sure how long she stood there, staring into his eyes, but eventually, the man slowly sat up, his body glowing with strange energy. He spoke, his voice deep and rich, echoing with an unearthly cadence. "I am Eric's," he said, his voice vibrating through her bones. "And you are the one I've been waiting for." Days passed, but Ilara couldn't shake the strange connection that had bloomed inside her the moment she touched him. Eric's was unlike anyone she had ever met. His appearance, his mannerisms, even his knowledge of the universe were unlike anything her scientific mind had encountered. But more than that, there was a pull, a strange, magnetic force that made it impossible for her to stay away from him. Despite her best efforts to remain distant, to analyze him with cold logic, the undeniable connection between them only grew stronger. His presence seemed to awaken something deep inside her, something she had long believed to be dormant. Emotions she had buried under layers of logic and reason now came rushing to the surface. And with every passing day, the bond between them deepened. But Ilara couldn't ignore the nagging doubt in the back of her mind. Was this real? Or was it some form of advanced manipulation, an alien technology that affected her mind? She spent sleepless nights in the lab, trying to find some scientific explanation for the feelings she couldn't control. Yet, the more she studied Eric's, the more impossible it seemed to explain. No human was supposed to possess the energy he radiated, the understanding of life, and the universe that he did. One night, as they sat together on the observation deck, looking out into the stars, Eric spoke again. "Do you believe in soulmates now, Ilara?" His voice was calm, but there was an underlying intensity in his gaze. She turned to him, the questions swirling in her mind. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Eric's reached out, his fingers brushing hers. The moment their skin made contact, the world seemed to fall away. Time and space ceased to exist, and it was just the two of them, suspended in an endless moment. A wave of warmth, of pure emotion, flooded her chest. She felt his heartbeat, a rhythm that mirrored her own. "You've always believed that logic can explain everything," Eric said, his voice barely more than a whisper. "But there are some things that are beyond explanation. Some things that cannot be measured or predicted." Ilara closed her eyes, trying to suppress the emotions flooding her system. But when she opened them again, she saw not just Eric's eyes, but the entire universe reflected in them. "Maybe you're right," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Maybe there's more to this than I understand." The days that followed were a blur of emotions and revelations. Ilara and Eric's grew closer, not just physically, but on a deeper, more spiritual level. She began to realize that what she had always considered a scientific anomaly was, in fact, something that defied science itself. This connection, this bond, was real. But not all was peaceful in their universe. The Vanguard was on a mission to explore uncharted regions of space, and with the discovery of Eric's, they had attracted the attention of enemies. A faction known as the Zenith had learned of Eric's awakening and desired his power for their own dark purposes. One fateful night, the Zenith launched an assault on the ship, determined to capture Eric's. As alarms blared throughout the ship, Ilara and Eric's fought side by side, her scientific mind finally understanding the power of their bond. They took down Zenith soldiers, one after another, Eric's energy surging through Ilara, amplifying her abilities. But in the chaos of the battle, Ilara was injured, a sharp wound to her side. Blood pooled around her as she staggered, struggling to stay conscious. Eric's, frantic, cradled her in his arms, his face full of anguish. You can't leave me." Her vision blurred, but as she looked into his eyes, she whispered, "I'm not going anywhere."